All right. So I'll try to do some intro, and usually I mess it up anyway, so I have to do it again. But if not, we just roll after that. Okay.
Sounds great.
Welcome to CoffeeIs.me podcast, where me means you, or more precisely, us. This is the show where your host, Valerian, without using any interrogation techniques, convinces coffee professionals to reveal their secrets to teach and inspire you to make better coffee and earn a few bucks on the side, if that's what you fancy. Let the show begin.
Hey guys, welcome to Coffee is Me podcast. This is another episode. I'm your host, Valerian Rala, and today I have Mitchell Popadziuk. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, it's more of a hard J, Popadziuk. It's Polish.
Popadziuk.
Yeah.
You know, I'm originally from Slovakia, and we are neighbors, so Poland, but never really figured out how some things are pronounced in Polish. And you are a co-founder and CEO of CxT roasting company in Peoria, Illinois.
That's correct.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Do you speak any Polish?
I actually don't. So my father came from Poland. He emigrated there when he was about 14 years old or so. And all of my cousins and my grandparents and stuff, like, they speak Polish. But when he came, he didn't speak any English, and it was a kind of a tough time for him. So he sort of had the mentality that his kids are, in this case, he had three boys, of which I'm the oldest, were going to be, all Americans, so to speak. So we actually don't speak any Polish myself, but we try to partake in a lot of the customs and everything when we visit our family.
Oh, that's awesome. So you go to Poland back?
I've actually only been to Poland once, and it was for work, so it wasn't even related. But my family is over in Buffalo, New York, so they live here in the States. But we haven't been to Poland as a family.
Okay. It's cool. I mean, I know that in Illinois houses a lot of like Central Europeans. I know Poles, Slovaks, Chicago is very famous for Slovak diaspora. And, I'm Hungarian from Slovakia, which is even weirder because in Central Europe we are mixed like hell. So it's interesting place. But yeah, so it's kind of cool to talk to someone who is from the same region as I am, kind of, right?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. Once removed.
Yeah. Genetically somehow.
Yeah.
Mitch, do you remember your first cup of coffee?
I was thinking about this, and because I've heard you ask other guests, and I don't know if I know my very first cup of coffee, so I have kind of a weird three-part answer. I believe my first memory was when my cousin, I was probably in my early teens, he came to visit, and he had like a cappuccino machine. He's a couple of years older than me, and he was very excited to make coffee for our parents and my aunts and uncles and everything. And of course they were very excited, because here's this 14, 15-year-old making them cappuccinos. So I think I tried it and didn't really like it at the time. And I'm sure I've had a cup here or there. Just my parents drink coffee almost every morning, so I'm sure I had a cup here or there. But I specifically remember my first purchasing of my own volition was when I was in college. I was a student, probably a freshman at the University of Illinois, and I was studying international economics and international relations. I think I was studying probably just in the cafe that was sort of near the student union. And, some of the things I was studying, I think I just needed a little pick me up. And so I went to the local cafe there and bought a coffee, and I immediately put a bunch of cream and sugar in there. So that became my my sort of routine, is I would drink this cup of coffee for studying with cream and sugar. And after a while, I started to think like, man, how many calories am I putting into this drink? So I started dialing it back until at a certain point, mostly for, watching my weight type of thing reasons, I started taking out the coffee, the cream and sugar. But then my first, I would say, third wave cup of coffee happened almost maybe 4 years ago when my brother Tristan, who's my business partner now, he brought home a Chemex brewer and was hand grinding the coffee. And I thought this was just wild at the time. So, and he made, I forget the origin exactly. I'd have to ask him probably, but it was something maybe from Intelligentsia or something like that. And so he brewed this, and I was like, what difference is this really going to make? And boy, was I surprised.
Nice. I have a funny story about my son. I gave my kids coffee from get-go. Well, not when they were babies, but like 4 or 5 years old. They tasted it. They didn't really like it. But my son started to drink coffee when he was 8, here and there, not really too much. But when he entered high school, he drank more and more. But he never, ever put in milk or sugar in it. Obviously,
Really?
he was always treated with specialty grade coffee. So, it's always something nice. But my wife's, her thing in the evening is decaf with milk and a little bit of sugar. And when my son saw it recently, he's 14 now, and he saw it and he was like, "What are you doing? It's so weird. How can you even have milk in coffee?" And I was like, yeah, that's right. He doesn't even know that you can have milk in coffee except cappuccino, but he looked at it as like natural. He didn't like try to shame her that she doesn't doing that. He was more like, can you do that? And how weird is that, So, and I know exactly how he felt, because the first time I saw somebody putting milk in the black tea, for me, that was also the same reaction. I was like, oh, you can do that? And how does it taste like? It's weird, So
yeah, I would second that about the tea, because when I started getting introduced to like sort of more the Indian and Pakistani like teas where they use a lot of milk and everything, I was like, whoa, what?
You guys run a company called CxT, and you spell it with a capital C, X, and capital T. So the X is not capital. What do you call it on capital? It's
just a non-capitalized, small case.
Small
case. I had to think there for a second.
I was like, wait, it's kind of cool. It looks to me something like a prescription or something. So where does this name come from?
This actually kind of goes back to when we were first starting the company. So I mentioned that my brother Tristan is the co-founder, one of the co-founders, and he's actually our roaster, and he's the guy that I started this company with. So his name is Tristan, and he's the T. And so when we were coming up with a name, we were trying to come up with something that was, reflective of like who we wanted to be. And this was way early on. This is probably before we even really started, but we were just like, I was kind of worried about picking a name that would become kind of weird in the future, or if we were, we had some interesting names that we had picked out that may have been sort of trendy at the time, but may not have that staying power. And I said, well, why don't we just kind of keep it, simple in some ways and just call it Coffee by Tristan. And then it sort of formed into the Coffee by Tristan roasting company, because initially I was pretty hands off. I mean, I was very supportive with my brother because he was wanting to get into roasting and start this company. And maybe this will lead into another discussion, but essentially he wanted to start, and I was sort of the silent partner that says, well, this is really, your company, and I'm going to support you because you're my brother and I love what you're doing. So maybe it's the Coffee by Tristan roasting company, because the idea was he was going to do these micro lots and sell them online and that sort of thing. So that's where the CxT, the X is the buy, as you sometimes know, in like a 2x4 or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I look at your logo, it reminds me, and I said pharmacy, but it reminds me some kind of like a formula. So it kind of, for coffee, I think it kind of works. It feels that it's, something precise.
Yeah, and that was part of it, I think, either subconsciously or not. Tristan has a bit of a STEM background, so he was going into the medical field at the time. And I had sort of an interest in engineering as well. And so we just kind of have that disposition to be sort of technical. And one of the things he loved about coffee and really what got him really interested was just sort of the scientific and technical side of brewing and roasting. So that kind of just came through, I think, in our marketing when we were first starting.
So tell me, how did you start, and what were your beginnings?
Yeah, so I used to work for a Fortune 50 company called Caterpillar. I'm not sure if it seems like everyone should know it, but I don't know. A lot of people don't. It's large industrial equipment and everything. And I was a purchaser for there. I was working there for probably 5-6 years, and it was a great company. I absolutely loved working there. But I think I have a bit of an entrepreneurial gene that was passed down to me from my mother, because I was always constantly thinking in my spare time, what kind of business can I start? So I was really interested in the tech field for a while. I was thinking to like maybe create an app or work with some friends of mine who were in computer science to create this like social networking app that we kind of had an idea for. And quickly you start getting into a quagmire of like, well, you need a lot of money. And I don't know if where this is really, I have the aptitude to actually create this sort of thing. But I think really what it showed me is that I had this desire to start a company. And my family kind of had that as well. I mentioned my brother Tristan a lot, but my mother is also very entrepreneurial. She started a bunch of sort of side businesses and worked as a sales rep for some home decor companies and did very well at it. She's very personable and a good salesperson. So we were sitting around one day and we're just like, what kind of company could we start? We're just sitting there drinking coffee. I think Tristan was even making the Chemex at that time. And I was just like, what's something we could do together? Because we all have these like sort of different skills and different interests. But our shared interest was in coffee. And it was kind of funny because then all of a sudden my mother was like, I tried to start a coffee roasting company like 10 years ago. And we just both looked at her like, what? It was like, what? And I remembered that she was actually a manager of a local cafe called Cades for a while. But at the time I was younger and I didn't really think much of it in that sense, or sort of forgot about it. But she started telling us, I looked into buying this Ambex roaster. Here's all this paperwork of all these things that we have. And it was just like blowing my mind, like, wow, this whole time, like you had this idea to start a coffee roasting company. And I'd never really considered something like that before. So literally that day we started YouTubing just how much is how to roast coffee and what's a coffee roaster cost and this kind of thing. And like I said, the idea was kind of to start just small, roasting in the garage, selling online, that type of thing. This was back in 2016, very early 2016. So I lived about 2 hours away at the time. And so I started driving home, and that's when I found actually your podcast, Coffee Is Me, or coffeeis.me. I was so amped about like, how can maybe we start this coffee company? And I was like literally searching on, Apple Podcasts, like what coffee podcasts and whatever. And so I probably listened to the first 3 or 4 episodes of your podcast, like just on the drive home that night. So it was, that's kind of how we got going on it. I would say after that, I started doing a lot more research, and like I mentioned, the idea was, we're gonna buy a coffee roaster. So I purchased the Huki 500T. Yeah, it was after watching YouTube videos. I think I even saw one of yours where you were talking about the one with the J pipe.
Yeah.
So I love that machine. So we were going to just do it as a hobby and maybe try to sell some online and kind of do it as a little side gig. And hey, we get some great coffee out of it in the meantime, right? So that was kind of the idea. And then I don't know, the laws might have changed recently, but there was one pivotal period where it was like, okay, we want to start this coffee roasting company. We're going to roast in our garage and we're selling online. And then we found out that we couldn't get a cottage food license at the time. I think they've actually changed the law now, but at the time we couldn't do it because we needed like a commercial kitchen type of thing. So that was like a period of like, okay, I've done all this research. I've been really into it. I'm really excited. And I was like, man, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not, I don't know what, it sounds kind of silly now, but that was just enough of like a no, like you can't get a license unless you invest in the commercial kitchen or whatever. I was like, man, I don't know if we have what it takes to really do a business. So yeah, that was kind of the start of it. We decided, well, why don't we see if this is really something we want to do and invest in. And we took a trip to Costa Rica to visit some coffee farms. And kind of the idea of the 3 of us went sort of as vacation, but then also as like, let's visit some coffee farms and see if this really like feels like something. Yeah, I want to start getting into this. It was kind of one of those, this will be the make or break sort of situation of we're going to go there. And if we're just come back motivated and pumped, then we'll move forward with investing. And if not, then it was a fun trip and maybe it'll stay a hobby. So that's kind of how we got started. We went to Costa Rica, came back, and we were absolutely jazzed. I mean, I purchased the roaster. We started roasting in the garage, and I started looking at commercial properties to rent because I knew we needed some kind of commercial kitchen as far as the law was at the time.
Well, thanks. This is awesome, and well, thanks for the shout out for the podcast. I'm always thrilled. Sometimes I meet people and they say, that I started my business because of your podcast. I mean, this is the best thing I can ask for. I know a lot of people leave us reviews on iTunes or whatever, and that's great, that's awesome. But when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I started business because I was inspired with your podcast, I'm always a little bit scared first because I don't know if they are sorry about that, because starting a business is not easy. I started a business and I'm like, oh boy, what the hell was I thinking? It's like, but many people are like, I'm following my dream, and whether it works or not, I don't know yet, because usually these are startups, but it's always awesome. So it's like, that's why I'm doing this, to kind of inspire the people. So thanks, and it's pretty awesome that you guys were listening to the podcast. I mean, you said that you came back from Costa Rica, and then after that you got a new roaster. What was that?
That was the Huki 500T.
Oh,
so
sorry,
so we started sample roasting and doing maybe 1 pound, 0.75 pound batches in our garage, and that was where Tristan really started taking off in terms of diving into the roasting science and everything. We got a lot of information off of the Huki forum, so those guys are awesome, and that's another great collaboration site that we were happy to partake in. So we kind of got going that way, and we signed a lease for a property. So that was probably early March, late March, early April, maybe, that we purchased that. And then we signed a lease August 5th of the same year. So at a downtown location, we spent about 3 months renovating the entire place ourselves. And then we purchased a US Roaster Corp 5 kg roaster, which arrived in December of that year, and we officially opened our doors at CxT Roasting Company on December 5th of 2016. So
great. And are you still using the 5K roaster?
Actually, we have 4 roasters now.
Whoa!
Well, it's not as okay. We have 2 of them are little guys. So we have the Huki 500T, and then we have an Ikawa Pro V3. So those are what we use kind of for our sample roasting and profile development, just depending on how we're kind of feeling that day, I guess. And then the US Roaster 5 kg we're using for some of our and some of our sort of small runs that we're doing for whatever special occasion or different type of roast or whatever. And then we recently got a Loring 15 kg that is at our new location. Okay,
right away, question. How you match profiles from the US core roaster and the Loring?
Well, the short answer is we kind of don't. So I kind of mentioned that the US roaster we're using for kind of smaller special runs, and that's why we kind of use the Huki and Ikawa. We kind of find that they match up pretty good. So if we want, we use the Huki to sort of profile for the US roaster, and then we have the Ikawa that kind of, I wouldn't say it's like 100% match, but it does a pretty decent job of lining up with what we want to do on the Loring.
Yeah, when you mentioned the 4 roasters, and I said, "Whoa," it's because my Green Plantation is the same. Because I actually wrote an article on coffeecourses.com about our mistakes when we were selecting roasters. And I always go that, I from get-go, I had small eyes. I did not know what it will turn into. So, we always had to upgrade, and we didn't sell the old roasters. We use them for special things. And of course we needed sample roasters. So we have now the Huki, and I'm talking about the Slovakia, we have Huki. We bought actually a Sonofresco because it's a beautiful show, but it never really works. I don't know if it's a European thing that, in Europe they don't work properly, or the gas or whatever, but it's I know that people here using them without any issue, but for us, bringing it to Europe was probably a mistake. And then we have the first roaster we ever bought. It's a Garanti 5 kilo, super cheap. And that's how we started our business. And we still use it for like small lots. And we have the Probat UG22, which, we were renovating for 3 years. And now it's kind of, finally works. But those are for the bigger things like, espresso blends and, bigger orders. So yeah, we also have a lot of roasters, but I think that most of the companies are like, what? These people are crazy. So many roasters.
I'm a bit of a collector myself. I can't even really imagine getting rid of any of these. So yeah.
I was saying that once we get rid of the small one, we get rid of our soul, basically, because it was basically our first roaster. Well, it was the first roaster for our partnership, because I partnered up with a Slovak barista who runs the company and manages as a CEO, cleaning lady and everything there. So, but my very, very first roaster, like professional, is I bought it in 2002, and it's a Probat LG3 from 1938. And my dad is still roasting on it, and he's our competitor. Not quite good. He's doing a dark roast, and we're doing this, specialty coffee, so it's kind of cool. But
nice.
1938, and it's still running strong. It's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. It's someday I want to start messing around with a cast iron drum or something old like that. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I have to say that, I for Unleashed Coffee United States, I roast on Lorings, and I love Lorings, by the way. They like admin panel is amazing. The reaction times when you adjust the heat is amazing. But when I do light roast, for me, it's always a little bit muddled. I don't know why is that. For dark roast, I really, really love it. I mean, I don't drink that much dark roast, but our customers are crazy about the dark roast done on Loring.
Right.
On Gießen, roasters on Gießen, I really prefer the light roast or medium roast on Gießen. And I was always I'm discussing this all the time with other people, and many people disagree with me. And I think that the reason why I prefer that is because I grew up with the cast iron drums, and I have that profile in my mouth, so that's why I prefer it. So
yeah, it could be there's a little bit of a learning curve on the Lorings, especially when you switch from like a stainless steel drum roaster or something. So yeah, I don't know that we felt the sort of come across the muddled feeling, but I can kind of see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Maybe I should sign up for some classes to somebody who's using Loring. No, serious. Like, I mean, I would love to figure this out, because, I love to roast on a Loring. It's super comfy. It's just a great production machine. I mean, it's not, I'm not talking that the coffee is horrible. I'm just comparing to the two roasters I roast on, and it's still a super solid coffee. I don't know. I probably should find somebody who can help me with this, figure this out.
I think Loring is actually doing like their own sort of masterclass now. Actually, Tristan, my partner, he attended that, and I think Rob Hughes was leading it. So he came back with some good tips and tricks from that. So I'm sure if you contacted them, they're pretty friendly about that kind of thing. I won't guarantee it, but I'm sure they'd be happy to help with some of the lighter roasts. I mean, my brother is actually the roaster, so my knowledge is not as technical as his on what he's doing, but yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that you are great partners. I mean, you are the business, and he's the passion.
Pretty much. I have that sort of corporate background, and I'm always approaching things with like the sort of businessy mind, and he's kind of the let's just wing this and try that, and but he has a real good knack for it, I have to say. There's something to be said about having this, like as much science and technology goes into these roasters, and the Loring is a great example of that. I mean, there is a bit of a je ne sais quoi that goes into roasting, I would say. So we complement each other well. That's kind of my
That's a dream partnership, I have to say, because I always felt like I need somebody who is a business mind, but always found only partners who are also passionate. So there was two passions working, and then we had to figure out the business part, which I did eventually, but if you have somebody from get-go who is good at business, especially sales. I mean, I suck at sales. I have to say I'm very bad at it. But if I could find somebody, business partner who's good at sales and, communicating with the customers and doing all that dance, that's I think the ideal partnership. So you guys figure this out from get-go.
Yeah, I don't know if it was so planned, but I look back and I think, wow, I don't know how I could have done any of this on my own. I mean, I have my brother who does a lot of the coffee stuff. He does the research, and for a while he was our only barista because we started with him working as the barista for our coffee bar. And then our mother is our salesperson and marketer. So she has a really good design eye and does a lot of the decor for our shops. And then she's sort of our sales pit bull. So we kind of have a little bit of a trifecta going on that I look back and I think, wow, I'm so lucky to have had great partners like that starting out.
Awesome. That sounds like a good team. Speaking of your business, many times people get passionate about certain types of coffee, for example the third way, which I'm passionate about, and it seems you guys too, and there's tons of other companies out there. So what do you think your company does differently? How do you separate yourself from the crowd?
That's a great question, and
I don't have silly questions.
Yeah.
Just messing with
You've been doing it long enough, I guess. Yeah. No, it's a tricky answer, I think. In some ways, I struggle because I learned from so much from other people when we were starting out, when we're doing this, and I don't have the luxury of saying like, oh, we pioneered this business and this model, and here's what we're doing. So, in some ways I have this sort of remorse, like, oh, we're actually not doing much different, than other companies. But then as I look into how we're running our business and doing that thing, I think, okay, well, one thing that we're doing is we're just following what our strengths are, and we're going after that. And pretty much what makes us different is just our customer service and attention to detail with our clients. So we're in Peoria, Illinois. We have Chicago, nearby, and they have a lot of great roasters and everything. But it still feels that where we're at is a little bit lacking in terms of a lot of coffee scene type of thing. So a lot of what we focused on, especially at the beginning, was just helping customers with coffee choices and educating them along the way. We had so many people come in and say, "What's a pour over?" And we still do to this day. And not to say that you don't have that in other cities either, but it's been an interesting growth to see people in Peoria, especially, start, understanding more about why coffee is, why the brewing method matters and that. So I think going through education with our customers is kind of how we started to build our name in the Peoria area. We were just very approachable. We don't, we try to meet everybody where they're at in terms of whether they like cream and sugar or, this type of thing, or flavoring syrups. So that's one thing that we focused on. And then I think a lot of it was, we always saw ourselves from the beginning as a roasting company. Wholesale was always something we wanted to get into. And that was one of our key growth strategies, is to kind of build a wholesale clientele. And initially, that's tough to do if no one knows who you are and this kind of thing. So we had to kind of go above and beyond on certain aspects. So we are very straightforward with our knowledge. We help a lot of companies, dial in their machines and help them decide like which products to buy based off of what we've experienced. We're good about sharing different recipes and brew ratios. We basically, Tristan goes and teaches some of our clients, one-on-one for several sessions to get them kind of up and running and everything. And basically, we try to be that roaster that, your success is ours. So, if we can't make coffee work with what your primary business is or what you're trying to do, then we have to rethink things and try again, or maybe it's just not a good fit. So we've had a couple, cases of either of those.
What I
Yeah.
hear is actually that you are one of the first ones in your area. So, one of the first third wave or specialty coffee companies that's, already giving you the uh, edge of being special, right? Or different.
So interestingly enough, there are a couple other companies, but I think that it just goes to show that the market is bigger than most people think, and that now it's developing. So it's I think that the future is there's a lot of opportunity in coffee in our area, and we're starting to see more and more coffee shops open up actually. So we're finding that there's a lot of like people doing the farmers markets and opening up little camper trailers and things like that. So it's really exciting. The whole sort of growth in the third wave it takes a little while, but it eventually gets to the Midwest.
Yeah, I also like that you mentioned the kind of customer support and, treating the customer right. And the funny story is that to my Slovak company, the Green Plantation, we were the first third wave company. So it was kind of cool. We got the buzz, we used that for a long time. But after a while, you get, in Slovakia is a small country. It's 5 million citizens. So now it's like 30 to 40 specialty roasters. And specialty coffee still in Slovakia is something which most people don't drink. I mean, they drink the mass brands from the grocery stores. So now we have 30, 40 companies competing for a tiny, tiny market. So today we cannot only claim that, we were the first ones, it doesn't really help. But exactly that special care for customers. And we support them many, many, many different ways. For our online customers, we send always 2 samples, for your next order. We send them right away email that, hey, we value your loyalty. If you want to stay with us, here is a coupon for 5%. We used to do 10 or 5, depends on, promos. But we always send them like some discount for the next, if they order coffee in the next 2 weeks or 1 month. And it depends, 2 weeks is when they order 1 or 2 coffees because they should, actually 1 coffee, they should drink it. But if they order more, then we give them, for 1 month because, if they are stay loyal, going to buy from us, then, they will use the coupon. And we do all the, like if they, send us something like, something happened in a shipping, we don't go like, it was a shipping company, let's figure this out. No, here is a coffee and we figure out the rest. And
exactly.
These little things basically give us now the advantage, the competitive advantage. So I'm very happy that you mentioned that because it's super important to treat your customers right. Even sometimes it costs you a lot of money, especially if you send someone a lot of coffee and it disappears, but it's still your customer. So.
Yeah, I would say one thing I didn't mention is that we also have a really broad offering as far as our coffees. So I think like right now we have close to 20 different single origin coffees on our shelf for retail.
Okay.
So yeah, we're sort of one of the first in our area to have that sort of broad of an offering.
Nice.
We started our company basically doing only pour overs. So I don't know if you've heard this many times, but we started a coffee company and we didn't have an espresso machine. So
that's maybe first time.
Yeah, this kind of goes to show like what type of maybe guy I was initially, but I said, okay, we're going to start this coffee company. We're going to be a roasting company, and the best way to highlight our coffees is through pour over. So we're not going to do espresso. It's an expensive machine, and I don't think we need it. It doesn't. So, it only took about 2 months before we were like, all right, we need an espresso machine.
I was wondering where you go with this.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, honestly, I think it was good to start that way because we did sort of get a handle on our coffee. We had people like really confused by what our shop was doing, but then they would start to get it and then they would tell their friends. And it was like, okay, if you want, good coffee prepared this interesting way, come go check them out. And Tristan, because he was the only one working there, will talk you through it and show you what he's doing. And we had a very like visual type of bar where you'd be sitting on a stool and they'd be making the pour over right in front of you. So, but then, the money starts to be a factor. And he's like, okay, well, we have people just walking in, walking out when they can't get a latte. So, I think that was one of our key little moments there as well. Is I realized, okay, well, we're not going to try to tell the customer, what they want. If they're telling us that they want espresso-based drinks and everything, let's do the best espresso-based drinks that we can do, and try to highlight it that way in our coffee.
Super smart. I mean, I did the same with the logo. I was always saying that, I still believe, and I always believe that the farmer is the hero in every coffee story. I mean, the farmer is with coffee for a year, works hard with a year, and then we roasters and baristas take the cream, financially,
Right.
also with the credit, right, with our brands. So I always say that, I don't need a logo for Green Plantation. It's the story of the farmer. So let's not have logo. Stupid idea. That's not the stupidest idea ever. You need to build a damn brand. There's no way around it. So yeah, but I love stories like this because you have this kind of silly idea that I'll do it totally differently, and it didn't work out. That's cool. But you had this kind of like an idea which, for me, sounds actually great. I mean, I would love to try a company without espresso, but I think that you're right that financially it would not make sense, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you guys are Fresh Coffee Pro members.
Yes.
And for people who don't know, Coffee Pro is our online education for coffee professionals. You signed up like a few weeks ago. So did Coffee Pro help you somehow? And did you change anything you did before because you learned it in a Coffee Pro?
Yeah. So the reason I signed up is because I felt like I was getting all this knowledge from you, and I felt like, well, now we're in a position where I can, support what you're doing because you're doing some great work out there, and I'll get a membership. But then part of the reason was, as I mentioned, Tristan is my partner, and he does a lot of the roasting and the coffee stuff. And while I have some information and knowledge about that side of it, my expertise is not there. And I thought I'll brush up on a few of these aspects, and that way at least I can speak a common language when I'm talking to him about what we're doing and what coffee we're buying and that sort of thing. So for me, I ended up quitting my job at Caterpillar only about two months ago or something. So I felt like, all right, this is gonna be a fresh beginning for me to go full into coffee, and so I'm going to start building my my knowledge on the terroir and seed to cup type information, and also get a little crash course in the roasting and that sort of thing. So I'm a few classes into the Coffee Pro program, and it's been great so far.
Cool. I hope you will not fight with your brother about, that he does some way, and learned from Coffee Pro something else.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's kind of giving us a bit of the common language when he's talking about something that I know what it is he means. And the thing that I would say we've implemented so far, I'm looking forward to completing the whole course, but the blending I thought was really interesting. As I mentioned, our company's been primarily and heavily focused on single origin coffees and single origin espresso even. So we do a lot of, like I said, we have a ton of different single origin coffees that we offer. And now we're getting to the point where some wholesale clients are asking, hey, can we get our own custom blend? So, obviously there's sales reasons why they would want, their own signature sort of blend. And that wasn't something we did a whole lot of in the first couple of years, because our mentality was that single origin is, you're tasting the different flavors of the terroir, and this is the way you can explore how the diversity in coffee, like if you try a Brazil next to Kenya, like look how different these are. And that's what was really exciting for us about that. So now the blending, I would say we're getting more into that, and the blending course was pretty cool to listen to and get an idea of how to run through a protocol for creating some of our own blends.
Yeah, I think that blending course, it's done by Jody Double, and she's not working with us anymore. She actually is in Texas, and she's a Q instructor. She has her own business. Yeah, so people in Texas, check out Jody. She's pretty awesome. And I think it's really underrated, that course. It's one of my favorite. And when I was filming it, I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. This is like so much great information how to approach blending. But
Yeah.
you can because I do wine too at this point only as a hobby. Even in wine, I can use her theories, how to think when you're creating blends and how can you kind of like go about it. So I think that course is super good. Although everybody's going for the roasting mostly. People love the roasting course, or the seed to cup is also really good. I think that because we have two. One is the origin. I forgot what's the coffee at origin. Yeah, that's an old one, and we kind of upgraded the information. And we have the seed to cup course, which is really deep, following the SCA, curriculum. So, but that blending is kind of like it's kind of like hidden in a corner, a golden book, when you go to a library and there's all these shiny things, but the really awesome book is kind of like dust in a bag. So, I agree with you. I'm so glad that you picked it up.
Yeah. The wet blending, I never considered really. So that was really nice tidbit to to go through that. And the seed to cup course was really cool. Willem's a cool guy. I'd like to meet him sometime, but yeah, he's some of his anecdotes are really interesting. And
so some people, and now I'm I like to always be kind of open about these things, but some people love Willem's anecdotes because they really kind of highlight or actually enforce the knowledge, and that's how you should do it. By the way, when you learn how the brain works, is actually you always strengthen the theory with a story. So he likes to do that. But some people are kind of like, oh, I want to be more practical. I want to just go for the theory. So they find it sometimes too long. I personally love those. I really like, because I can relate to the story and say, oh yeah, that's what he meant by that. So yeah, and he actually is working now on a new roasting course, which because we started 7-8 years ago, a long time. Right. So we brushed these off a little bit, and there's a lot of new things came in. So we are working on the fact that there's going to be a new roasting course, kind of like a big update. So yeah.
Well, I look forward to that then.
Yeah, it should be done like in a few weeks, I hope. I mean, he's filming it with somebody else, not with me this time.
Okay.
So, because I do other things right now, so it's just getting too much. Anyhow, so thanks again for your feedback, and I really hope you guys will use it to full potential. And also thank you that you bought it because of the podcast. That's kind of cool, It's very honest of you that basically you got some tips, and to be 100% honest, it's not only me, it's all the guests who were on the podcast. So thank you for guests, for the fact that people buy the course. Yeah,
especially want to throw a shout out to Ironclad Coffee when they were on their podcast, because I got so much out of that episode.
No, I want to do that again. So I know Ironclad is now doing great, by the way. They are really killing it. But I want to interview another company which they are just starting, because I forgot what was happening in Green Plantation 8-9 years ago. Even Unleashed Coffee we started like 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. I don't know, I forgot all those things. I still have them in mind, but the details, the hustle, the little problems, they just vanished. And interviewing companies who are in the process can be interesting for us to learn that do you really want to start a coffee roasting company? Because you will have to go through these steps. So I have somebody lined up, and I hope to interview them soon.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it.
Cool. Me too. All right. The next question is, I want to give, this is a new question. I want to keep asking everyone, because I think this is a question I get the most. It's about your sales channels. So which sales channels do work for you guys, and where do you think you lack, or maybe is there something you are planning to do in the future?
Yeah, the sales channels is something we're always trying to consider and try to expand actually in the next little bit. So we started with a small cafe, and we started roasting and wholesaling our coffee to a couple other companies in our area. And we pretty quickly ran out of capacity on our 5 kg, which I know you have a article on that. So yeah, we sort of fell victim to that whole thing. And so when we opened our next cafe, that's why we went for the 15 kg. And so we're starting to expand our sales channels. Right now, we just sell a lot of bags through our cafes. Mm-hmm. So, talking about the different coffees with the customers and then having so many different options, it gets that conversation going that we have a lot of clients and customers and guests that come into our cafes that become regulars. And it's really cool because they'll pick up a bag of Colombia one day and then the next day they'll say, I want to try that Nicaragua because I've seen it and, the notes on it are kind of interesting and, maybe I'll try a pour over that today. So we've had a lot of retail bag sales through just our cafes and of course through wholesale. But what's been interesting is, especially in recent times, just our online sales have been starting to take off. So we've been experimenting with different avenues of selling online. So far, our biggest one has been just primarily on our website and trying to use social media to drive traffic there. We are currently listed on spin.com. Uh-huh. So that's been an interesting one. And then we are looking at potentially trying to go into grocery stores and everything. So that'll be an interesting experience, I think. I've been listening to some of your recent discussions about grocery stores. So
okay, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been pretty cool. I think where we lack a little bit is definitely our social media presence and some of our online sales. So I've been toying around with the idea of getting onto Amazon, going on to some of these other higher just online sales channels, eBay or whatnot, and then experimenting a little bit more with Facebook advertisements and Instagram type of things. I think that it's one of two things. Maybe we'll see a pretty good growth, or maybe we'll put a lot of effort in and it'll sort of mellow out. I'm not sure yet.
Well, it's worth risk, and worth checking it out. Like I know, we do Amazon with Unleashed Coffee. We did it also with Green Plantation. I gave up on Amazon with Green Plantation, mostly because Green Plantation is about freshness, so that we couldn't, we did from Slovakia shipping to UK, and it was just super weird. So you mentioned Amazon. So, Amazon is very low margins. So you have to kind of try it and figure it out. I know companies which I warned, a big company, local company, not warned. I mean, I cannot warn you, but I was like, well, check this out. Is it really worth for you? Because, these are the numbers we have. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, we hired a company who will figure this out for us. We're paying them, big money. And I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know how they can afford it. And 2 years in, and they basically agreed with us that, it's very low margin game. That said, one of the Coffee Pro members is actually a company which is doing amazing job on Amazon. And I really, really want to interview them. And I sent them multiple emails. We started the conversations, but then they dropped it. And I don't know. I mean, if you go on Amazon and find out which coffee is the top coffee, selling, and they have green and roasted and they just appear right away in a search, that's them. So I don't know. I really hope that they will change their mind and they will share at least a little bit of their wisdom. We tried eBay with Unleashed Coffee because we sell a lot of green coffee,
Yeah.
And eBay, boy, I actually did something which I don't like to do, but I was totally underselling the coffee. I just said, let's see, and nope, doesn't work. We got one sale. Also, other companies are selling green coffee for prices. I was like, it's not worth doing long term, So it's right. I don't want to work for free, So I just will sell it somewhere else. I'm curious about your experience with Spin, because we did sell on Spin. I had one negative stuff was that we always got the notifications when the coffee was already late. We never got a notification of the sale, which was for me oh my gosh, it's we have to ship now. And we sold 2 or 3 coffees a year. I mean, what's your experience with spin?
It's pretty similar. I wouldn't say it's like a constant stream for us, but it's just weird how occasionally we'll get like 4 or 5 orders in a week, and then we won't get anything for another couple weeks. So I don't know if it's just the way their back end algorithms work, or someone around us is, getting some kind of sale or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a very consistent stream. We kind of did it to get our, just our feet wet in some of these online platforms. I would think that a lot of it has to do with marketing. I noticed a lot of the other vendors on there have these really nice and like crisp bags that are very like attractive and everything. And ours are pretty, at the moment, pretty basic. They're your standard like kind of quad seal bag with a couple labels that we have printed, and we put them on there. I wonder if we put the investment into like a sharper looking bag, if it would do better on those type of sites. So that's one thing I'm looking into, is sort of creating more of the custom bags and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. That can be cool. I know that for Green Plantation, that was a big thing when we changed our packaging.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I living in California, obviously, I'm massaged with the green propaganda. And propaganda, I'm joking about. I mean, I'm also like a very nature conscious person. So, all these plastic bags are horrible for the environment. Many times they claim they are recyclable, but they are not. I mean, nobody can recycle them. So they can be recyclable, but nobody recycles them, then end up in a landfill. So I was like, let's try to do something else. So we changed with Green Plantation again into compostable bags, which, I mean, fall apart all the time. So we send in kilo, and just we got 4 people who were like, oh, our coffee blew up or something because it's all over the package. Right. So we have to figure that out. And second, we use little like, they look like a tin cans, but they are not. They are basically made of paper. It looks like a toilet paper roll when you finish the toilet paper, there's that kind of like So insert is kind of like a food safe paper, and a top and a bottom are tin. So those are recyclable for 100%. So we use those and compostable bags, which don't work right now. But, we're trying to always figure this out. And I was just going to say that, the fact that we changed to compostable, and we brag about it, obviously, attracted a lot of new customers. Because in Europe, in Slovakia or in Europe, the packageless foods are super, super popular, So basically you go to a store and you buy it in your jar or something, a kilo of beans or whatever, So we try to kind of follow that trend. We can't really sell into jars, although we have some customers who come to jars, but we try to figure out some way which is much greener than our competition, and it resonated with people. So that's kind of awesome. Yeah. So, I'm just saying 2 stories when packaging really changed our economy of the company. My favorite question is always the $2,000 question. And I'm expecting, the stakes are high because you're a person who has business mind and you always wanted to start a business. So you probably thought about this a lot. So if I give you today $10K, what kind of coffee business would you start?
Yeah, I love this question. Especially when you ask other people and everything. I thought Nick's answer was really amazing from Flag and Wire. It was like, yeah, that's such a good idea to open like a boutique cold brew operation. I think I really like that idea, but what I was thinking initially was more along the lines of not that far off from how we started. I think I would probably get. It depends sort of what your end goal is. If you're trying to be more of like a roaster cafe, or if you're trying to open more of a coffee shop type thing. I think if I had 10,000 right now, I would probably buy something like a La Marzocco single group espresso machine and a grinder, and possibly a brewer. So that right there is probably about 6 or 7 of my my budget. But this is hard because the lease and that type of thing is really tough. But essentially, it's kind of what we did. If you can find a property with maybe $500 or $100 or $1,000 a month or something like that, you could try to open up a basic coffee bar right there. But I kind of like the idea of doing more of the farmers markets initially, and especially to see if you're having the wherewithal to kind of make it work. Because for a while there, it is kind of frustrating when you can't have the equipment you want or the space you need ultimately, because you have to start to make the money first. Yeah, it's tough. I think initially, if you've only got $10,000 to start with roasting would be really challenging. So I'd find a good roaster to work with you, that will sort of show you some tips and tricks along the way and kind of recommend certain machinery for you. And then focus on building an online presence, because you can do that relatively inexpensive. And that's something we haven't really done, but we're focusing on now. But I see other coffee shops in our area or coffee companies that don't necessarily have the same footprint that we do, but are doing really cool and interesting things just online and in a sort of mobile fashion. So secure your domain name, possibly get a little basic espresso setup until you can keep going, or do Nick's idea with the cold brew thing. We do a fair number of events, private events, weddings, and that type of thing. So I think there's a market for that type of business.
I totally agree. I think that, having a small espresso setup, quotation mark cart, and doing events, doing corporate events. I mean, you don't even need a space. I mean, you are starting somewhere,
Right.
So that can be your entry. That can work. Do you know, by the way, where the 10K question comes from originally?
I think I know just from, that's how you started Green Plantation, right?
Oh my God, you're good.
Euros. Yeah.
You are a listener. You are good. Yeah, we started with 8,000 euros. Yeah, so we bought a roaster and the first pallet of coffee and paid, a horrible place in a shipyard for roasting. And I built the website because I do that. And that's it. And we started to roast coffee. That's why I think, but amazing, cool. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, part of me really wants to say, go buy a $8,000 roaster or a used one or something and start roasting in garage. But I know that's not always possible in certain places. So,
right. I mean, it depends what kind of, I gave you the $10,000, so you could spend it as you want. And I think that there's so many other things you can do in a coffee industry other than roasting coffee,
Yeah.
And I think especially nowadays it's super important to kind of keep your eyes open, check out your competition. Don't fall in the same trap as we did with Unleash Coffee. We have amazing differentiator, the fact that we have our farm, right? Mm-hmm. But yet starting a coffee business in the San Francisco Bay Area, oh my gosh, so that's so competitive. Like there's so many great companies already here. So, just another a player in the market. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of things you can do in coffee if you want to. Just think a little bit and figure out where is the empty spot where you can fit in. Yep. All right. So we have, I wanted to try this new thing that if you have a question for me, and you sent me few questions. So which one shall we talk about?
Yeah, whichever you feel. I think the electric roaster is kind of an interesting one. So what's your take on these all electric roasters? I mean, I'm kind of curious about this because in some ways it feels like, ooh, that's a bit avant-garde and, that's not the way to roast coffee and everything. But then, as you kind of mentioned with some of the green movement and everything, the positives are, no pollution, and then also, very little, maybe less pollution, and then also being able to power them with the green energy. So that's one thing I was kind of interested in.
So the electric roasters I know and I've seen. By the way, I started on electric roasters as a home roaster on Alpenröst, which only very old home roasters remember that piece of junk. And of course, Be More is kind of electric roaster, which is not a junk, but it's pretty awesome little home roaster.
Mm-hmm.
And, the reason why we don't recommend having electric roaster is the reaction time of the heat. So meaning if you are on gas roaster, you adjust the heat, it happens instantly, right? The flame goes down and the heat source is adjusted. While on an electric roaster, there is some time difference between, the change of the heat and until the element cools off. So your roasting is not that precise. So that's the main reason why for specialty coffee, we don't recommend electric roasters until they figure this out, maybe something better, some better system. I don't know. I don't see that it can be really used in specialty coffee roasting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I just wondered if it's kind of maybe some push for a sacrifice in maybe the cup quality for the potential environmental offset. I'm not sure. I know that's why.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say that's partially why we went with the Loring initially, is because it's more efficient in terms of its gas usage and everything. So, and it has the built-in sort of afterburner.
Right. I mean, that's why I admire Loring too. And, I would be very happy if somebody says, Valerian, what you just said is rubbish. With electric roaster, you can do X, Y, Z and figure this out or learn about it. Because, I love the idea of, saving the environment every way. So, but that's my take. And that's what I learned from, in the industry. And anytime we were thinking about heating elements, we never even considered, electric heating element. Actually, I hate to cook on electricity. I have to say, in our house here, we have, in the induction, whatever you call it, stove, and I hate it. I always cooked on gas and just much better, efficient. I don't know. So yeah. I like the other question too, by the way, and we should a little bit discuss it because it's something which intrigues myself too. So I'm interested in that too. It's the Tik Tok and whipped coffee, and are we on Tik Tok, and what can somebody do on Tik Tok? So first of all, have you ever tried that whipped coffee?
I've never tried it. I'm intrigued why it's becoming this phenomenon, but it's not something I've personally gone out and sought to do.
Do you use Tik Tok?
I've been exploring it lately, mostly because of the current circumstances, right? With the quarantine and the COVID-19 sort of thing. It seems like it's kind of blown up and a lot of people are using it. And I was interested if it's gonna, potential, what its potential was and what we could possibly use it for, especially trying to grow a brand or trying to get information out to maybe some of the younger potential customers, right? So kind of looking at it from a marketing standpoint, like what's it about, or is it possible to use for even a sales channel at some point? So I'm not sure, haven't come to a conclusion on that, but that's where I've been kind of checking it out. And I came across some of these interesting trends on whipped coffee and different ways to get your quote unquote, like your Starbucks coffee at home type of thing. So.
Okay, so when it comes to whipped coffee, my daughter was doing it. I don't think she did it correctly, but there's a great video about Deborah Freudiger. She works for Equator Coffee, and if you go to the Instagram, I'm not going to spoil it. You should watch it. It's fun. So it's about her making whipped coffee. It's fun. So it's Equator Coffee Instagram. Yeah. So when it comes to Tik Tok, first of all, I love the idea that you checked out something which is not, mainstream for, a coffee company. I would say everybody's on Instagram and Facebook. I did the same a few months ago. And my first post, and I tried some coffee posts, I tried some hike posts, and do some other things.
Okay.
And in the beginning, they were doing great. After that, for whatever reason, so I did one thing. Okay, so they were doing great. Then when I was checking out the feed, I got all these politically charged TikToks, which I did not appreciate, and they just made me angry. And I don't want to be on a place where, things make me angry. So I was just kind of like disabling those users, just like, okay, I don't want to see anything from this user. I don't want to see anything from this user, without thinking that, it will somehow influence me. Seems that after that, anything I posted had like 5 views instead of 600 or something like that. So I was wow. Oh, oops. And I don't know if that was the cause or not. But my daughter, actually, she's a big TikToker, and she said that, oh, no, they changed the algorithm, so that's why. So I don't know, but maybe not. The other reason why I don't think I'll be a good candidate for TikTok is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. He's the social media guru. He's a pretty awesome guy. He's, by the way, originally Russian. He came here when he was a kid. And I think that every social media guy or marketing guy would say, listen to his podcast, whatever he does, because he does a million other things, like videos and stuff. And he's a pretty smart guy. So he in his book, he said, it doesn't matter which social media you choose, but make sure you speak their language. So you speak differently on Instagram, you speak differently on LinkedIn, you speak differently on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I cannot speak the Twitter language. It never really worked for me. I'm very good speaking the Facebook language because that was my main social media. I'm okay at speaking the Instagram language up to a point. I'm not, this influencer stuff for me is always a little bit like, okay. Although I will go back to that because I'm starting to work with my influencer. I'm curious where does it take us. And TikTok is so alien to me that I just don't know if I can speak that language. I don't know if I can be so silly on the camera. I can be silly when we drink wine together. Boy, I will be super silly. But doing those silly things on a camera, I don't think I can do that. So most likely, TikTok today is not for me personally.
Yeah, I think I share a similar sentiment. Looking at it, I don't... some of the things that have intrigued me are some of the like cooking videos, like the quick life hacks, like here's this kind of thing. And I thought maybe there's an opportunity to do like, hey, here's how to, brew a Chemex in 60 seconds, or here's why this coffee origin is, better for this reason or whatever, coming up with sort of an, I don't want to say educational, but sort of a life hacky type video series. So I know on Instagram, we've been doing a lot of more like industry humor kind of quirky videos, and we've been getting a lot of like positive feedback on those. And I think in a way it has translated to sales, especially, driving people to our website and everything. So it got me kind of thinking, because on Instagram, we were posting these videos and they have that limit of like a minute before it switches it to the IGTV. So I was keeping all of our videos under a minute just to do that, and then find out that TikTok has sort of that same limitation. So I almost kind of wonder if some of these little quirky videos we're doing on Instagram might work on TikTok. But then, so we haven't quite gotten to the point where we're experimenting. It sounds like you've done a few videos. And was your goal to try to drive sales with it, or was it more just to play with the format?
No, I just playing the format because I wanted to figure out the language, what resonates with the people. I think that Instagram, for most of my brands, does not translate to sales at all. But what it translates to is that it shows us our culture, shows us our values. And at some point, these people, when they, will be deciding about A or B coffee, they will probably go for us because they identify with our culture or not. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's a really good way how to show off what's happening in your company. And I had this guy coming to me and he said, look, I want to be your intern because I want to learn more. I mean, he's a pretty good photographer already, and he was like, I want to learn more about product photography and I want to manage your Instagram. It's about Green Plantation, my solar company. I was like, for free, that's great, but look, I'm looking for this. I want people on my photos. I want people having fun on my photos. I want my team on the photos. I don't really care for product photos. They can happen here and there. That's cool.
Right.
But for me, the culture is the most important. And he was like, but I wanted to make these, and he made us amazing product photos. I was like, well, these are amazing, these are really cool, but that's not what I want on my Instagram. For me, Instagram is really showing kind of like we are fun people, and we,
Right.
and we have customers who are fun people. So that's for me more important than, like a product photo or a really pretty product photo. And that's why I'm saying that Instagram up to a point, because now going back to what I kind of started and I didn't finish is like, it happens that COVID brought home into my little town a super big influencer. She has over 700,000 followers. She works for big fashion brands, and she loves our cafe. And she came to us and she said, "Hey guys, I travel the world, but I'm originally from this little town, and I love that we have this coffee here. Can I use your space for photography?" So she did some fashion photos in our house. We have the kind of like a beautiful old house with a wooden parquet, so she did that. And then we started to talk, and she's like, "I always wanted to have my own coffee brand." I was like, "Well, how about we do an experiment? I'll build the website, I'll build the whole thing, and you have the 700,000 followers. So we'll make you 3 coffees, and we sell it through Green Plantation, but it will be your brand. It's kind of like a quotation mark fake brand, and we test it. So you have these 700,000 followers, and how do they react to coffee?" She knows she can sell jeans. I mean, she sells truckloads of like $300 jeans, which, I never even seen in a store. So, it can be interesting to see that maybe we in Green Plantation and Unleashed Coffee, we don't do the sales correctly through Instagram, because they don't convert. Like if I pay for the ads, I usually always pay also for Instagram, but the Facebook converts for us better than, Instagram when I pay for the ads. But maybe she can do it, and we learn something from this whole thing. And will be more than happy to share this, with everyone. So that would be something in a hopefully near future.
Yeah, very interesting. That would be. I'm always kind of curious about that as well. The influencers. So you kind of hear some horror stories sometimes of like them not actually getting any conversions or whatever, but I don't know.
Well, I get a lot of offers from influencers, and like 80% are fake. I can see that our followers are fake because they have, let's say, 30,000 followers, but they have 100 hearts on it, or likes, what do you call that on Instagram? And it's like, wait, that's not really conversion properly, because we have like 3,000 followers on Green Plantation, and we get that. So if you have 30,000, shouldn't you get a little bit more than that? And his comments are like, great, awesome, or something like that. And you see the pictures are kind of like stolen, maybe, or I don't know. I don't even know. They're not authentic. So I don't know. But we had that podcast with Umeko, and she, now I don't want to offend her, but she has maybe 16,000 by now, followers. And she actually said that we have to be careful about who is your influencer, and what do you expect from the influencer. For example, all my websites run affiliates. So if you are really a tough influencer, I'm happy to share with you the profits. Let's sell. But nobody so far said, "Oh yeah, I'll be happy to share profits." So I'm good enough to be a good influencer, and I know I'm going to sell you a lot of coffee, so let's share profits. Nobody ever said that, and that's for me suspicious.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm super pragmatic, and I really hope I didn't offend anyone who is an influencer. And if you are an influencer and you earn a lot of money from other brands, paying you, great, kudos to you. But for me, you have to prove yourself. I'm sorry, I don't have money to just like toss away through the window. And when it comes to TikTok, if somebody figures this out, I think it's the future.
Yeah.
But okay, so now it's a little bit philosophical. It's the future, because every young people use it today. But these young people nowadays attention span is so short. So social media come and go much faster than they used to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So today it's TikTok.
Sure.
Tomorrow it might be whatever. Maybe, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So there's definitely a challenge in that aspect of, how much time and effort do you put into a social platform that might, be irrelevant in a week or so. So.
Yeah. And also can you do sales on it? Because by now Facebook made a lot of implements, like the stores on both on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, actually, you can tag products, which is pretty cool because people can, they see some nice chair or some nice coffee and they can see, oh, okay, this is cool. This is the product. I don't think TikTok has anything like that. Most of the users of TikTok are super young, which don't have yet purchasing power and maybe not even interested in that much in coffee. Mm-hmm. But please prove me wrong and let me know how you do it.
Yeah. Second that request.
I want to know where people can find you.
So you can find us online. We're at CxT.coffee. So, and then we're on Instagram and Facebook at CxT Coffee. So it's, like I said, stands for Tristan, or Coffee by Tristan.
I'll put all the links into the show notes so you guys can check it out. And one more thing, and also maybe tip for other people, I found that your website is accessible through different domains, like .com, there is .coffee, maybe something else. Do you have a domain?
We initially purchased CxTcoffee.com, and then we kind of changed it more for marketing, I guess, reasons. I just like the look of CxT.coffee. It's very crisp and clean, but it is taking a little bit to remind people that .coffee is a domain. So we kind of have both right now for, our emails are like Mitchell@CxTcoffee.com, right? Because people are more used to that format. I'm not sure. We are kind of using both at the moment, but.
So here's a tip from a nerd. Don't. You have to decide which one is your main domain and use it every time, everywhere, no matter what, because of your SEO. So now imagine that, Google picks you up on coffee and also .com. For them, you are two different companies. So now you're getting credibility on your .coffee domain and your .com, and you're splitting that credibility.
I see.
If you have only one domain, you can get it only on one domain. So for example, what's the domain on your Facebook account, right? Google checks, okay, maybe .coffee, maybe .com. What's your Twitter account, on the Instagram account? What is in your Google, what did they call it, the Google business? So
yep.
It's super important that you have one domain, and that's your main domain, mostly for SEO purposes, but also a little bit confusion because you already mentioned that, you have to keep reminding people that which, domain to use. And some people tell me that, oh yeah, but I'm forwarding the other one. Forwarding is not giving you SEO credibility. If you have a main domain and you forward other domains to it properly, that's cool, but use one domain. So it's crystal clear for Google that this is you and they always find you and you rank up high in the search.
No, that's great feedback. Yeah, I think that's something we are, as a company, realizing we have a bit of a gap in that the SEO marketing type of side. So we'll be focusing a lot of attention to try to build that, especially in today's climate.
I mean, you are not the only one. That's why I'm mentioning it. I just noticed that on you, and I think many people do that. And I had to go through the same. By the way, Green Plantation. Our name our domain was greenplantation.sk, but then we realized Slovaks don't know how to spell Green Plantation, so they spell it with one E or whatever. So it was a hassle. So very early we changed into GP Kava. Kava is a word means coffee in Slovak.sk, and it's super simple, easy to remember. And we're sticking to it. So we don't, other domains we don't even use. We register them so nobody takes them away from us and make a fake Green Plantation, but we don't even use them. So we just kind of have them on ice, would you say?
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I really enjoyed this interview. This was great. This was really fun.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoyed it as well. Hopefully there's some good information on it. So we'll continue to learn and grow as a company, and we'll be looking forward to the new roasting course on Coffee Pro.
Oh, thanks. Bye.